Another day. Let's get after it. Okay, show you a little bit about what we're dealing with here. So, I'm making a panel for an El Camino. It'll be something like this. And what this panel is going to do is it's just going to close off. I can't hold it the right way to show you what it's doing, but it's going to close off the rear section of an El Camino. It's back halved and has tube across. It's not a stock frame exactly in the back, so it's going to be essentially a roll pan, but behind the bumper, so you're not going to really see it, but we're going to make it really nice anyway. But now I need this piece to be 55 inches wide. So I believe we can get this piece, it's 55 inches wide from here to over there, and I believe we can get this between here and here just about perfect. We'll bend it up, cut it straight, but the problem I'm going to have is that's 55 inches wide. Can't do it on my brake here because I got my coffee sitting there and I'm not going to move that, so we're going to have to find another way. All right, that was just a joke. This is only a 4-foot brake, which is actually still a pretty good sized brake. It's not super heavy duty, but it's for anything we're doing here, like 18 gauge, it's plenty. You can do 16 on it. I think you could do 16 a lot easier if I put a support on there. May do that later on down the road if I start doing more 16 gauge. This is 18. We're not going to use this because it's not a structural piece, so we're going to use the 20 gauge. It'll be a lot easier to bend, and then we also have another piece to make. We'll get into that next, but we're going to start getting this cut and bent up. One of the nice things about working in a body shop is have just about as many sawhorses, or they're not sawhorses, they're just horses, but many of those as you need. We probably have like 10 or 15 of those laying around, it seems like. They come in handy all the time for my arts and crafts projects. So we got our template. These Sharpies, I am not sponsored by Sharpie. If Sharpie would like to sponsor me, that'd be awesome. These Sharpie Pros, these will write on anything, and when you're doing this dirty metal work like this, oh wow, are they great. But anyway, enough about the Sharpies I love. Sharpie, template for information, tape measure, straight edge, sheet metal. That's pretty much all we're going to need to lay this out. To get it laid out, throw you on time lapse to see that, and then get all done laying it out. I'll show you before I start bending it up. Got our sheet pretty much laid out. We needed 55 inch. So we got, luckily this panel somehow was exactly 55 inch. I have no idea what I cut before, but luckily I cut 5 inches off that because these normally are 5 foot, which is 60 inches. Never mind that. So took our measurements. We got like 1.25 inches, 5 inch, 4.5 inches, and 3/4. These flanges can be 1 inch. That's normally what I like to make them. I think this is just the way I bent it up sort of by hand in the shop when I was measuring the car out. But so we're going to make them to that. Probably leave them alone, but we could trim them down to 1 inch. but it's not really super important. Now, we have 1.25 inch, 5 inch, 4.5 1.75 inch. That's the same the whole way down. We'll trim this off. I might leave this on here for now and just cut it up here, but I'm definitely gonna trim it because I don't want stuff like this in there, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and get this, cut off this main piece, and after that we'll figure out how we're gonna rig this up to break it over. I think we're gonna have to do it a homemade way with maybe some wood or some tube or angle, something I got laying around here from another arts and crafts project in the past that my dad's probably mad about. So, all right, we'll get to it. So I'm digging around in the back of the shop. These are actually old Body by Fisher plates for my Nova. I don't think those would clean up. If anybody watching this ever says, oh, I need some of those plates, and I don't care if they're not perfect, let me know, because you can have them. Anyway, looks like a big piece of angle down there. I'm gonna get that out and clean that up, and I think we're gonna use that to break this panel over. If you've watched this far, I'll show you here. This is a potential future project for the channel. This is my 69 Camaro. It's not in terrible shape. It's obviously the body's, you know, up off the subframe and that. It needs quarters. I have 1/4. Those are new fenders, new rockers. The floor's not in bad shape and the firewall's nice, but I have a subframe for it too. But so that's something we might get to if people are interested. That'd be a really nice street car. The quarter panel right there that I just said that I had, I forgot that it was sitting right here. So I just went and dug this piece of angle out of the back of the shop, back where we keep some just, I don't want to call it junk because it's like this can have a purpose, but it's 104 inches. So I think very easily I can cut that in half, make it 52 inches. I'm actually good at math, don't take that as an example. I think I can use that, clamp it, and break it over and make my bends pretty easily. So I'm gonna do that. I don't know what this was for. It's rusty. It's been back there for years. That doesn't mean that my dad's not gonna be mad at me because he was supposedly gonna use that for something. If he is, I'll buy him a new one, but we'll just hope that he wasn't saving it for something. But if he was saving it for a long time. So we're gonna use it because it's convenient for us. I try to do when I'm grinding or welding. I actually have a nice respirator for welding, but when I'm doing this stuff, I should probably just wear that, but I at least try to throw on a dust mask. I forget sometimes, but you know what? You only get one set of lungs, and I'm trying to keep them as best I can. You know, I do enough work outside of here in my actual job around dust and smoke and different things like that in the steel mill that it's bad on my lungs. So I'd like to try to, you know, limit what I do at home, you know, for that reason. But let's look at what we got going on here. Here's our two pieces. Did not touch the inside because it's absolutely irrelevant. Outside, I cleaned them up with sort of like a Scotch-Brite type disc or something. I got it at Lowe's. I can't really think what the name of it even is, but It's smooth now, has all that scale and rust off it. Nice crisp edges on these, and these will work perfect for what we're doing. We're not hammering on these. We are hammering on them to an extent, but this just needs to be straight and flat. It doesn't need to be a perfect, nice surface. It is smooth, but you know, it's not a showpiece. The showpiece is what we're making with it. So this is just a tool, and it'll work for what we're doing. Check it out real quick. We got our vice grip for our vice grip. These, I have no idea how old they're probably as old as me, from like just welding and stuff, just dirt and this and that. You can lube them up, but you're still going to get stuff in there, so sometimes you got to get the new vice grips on the old vice grips and get them turning free. So it's extremely important to know which way we're going to bend this stuff. So small flange, you're going to bend down that way. It'll be 90 degrees to this. This comes up, this on an angle, and this flange bends back that way. So we just have to keep in mind that's what we're making as we go through and bend this. So I'm going to put this on time lapse as I move all this around and break this, but I want to show what I'm doing here and why. So I got my smoother end of the smoother side of the angle down towards the panel. That other vice grip wasn't going to work. This one will work. I'm not digging around finding another big one. I have this clamped on my line, so the line's covered, because I want this area to be pretty exact. So if I break this on this side of the line, I break this pretty much right in the center, then I should have my exact dimension in here. And I have reference lines on the other side, and that's the same thing. So we're gonna come through with a body hammer, and we're gonna hammer this over, and I think it's gonna work just fine. I have my little wood set up here. I was trying to figure out how to get this all in position easily, and I just have I think it's like a 2x8 underneath there laying there, just something so I can set that angle on. But this is how you break almost a 5-foot piece when you only have a 4-foot break. If anybody is watching this and has like a big industrial, like a finger break or something like that for a reasonable price that they want rid of, like 5 foot or more, let me know, because I'm in the market for one. So a little small thing I'd like to note, if you notice, I set my stuff aside. I just have my sheet set aside. These little coils and little strips that are sharp and stuff I'm going to throw away, I bend them almost like a hook. Just real quick, I just bend the coil and I lay it over there. That way when I go to get that panel, I see that, and they're not laying around on the floor like It's not that if I step on it, it's a problem, but number one, I don't want them laying on the floor. Number two, every once in a while, I'll have a dog or something in the shop, and I don't want a dog stepping or anything like that, but helps me keep track of them. I think it's a good idea. You might think it's stupid. You might think I'm stupid. Maybe I am, but something I do. Just a little neat little note if you're wondering why it's like that. Over. I got a little radius on this bend, which actually I think will look really nice, but we could go through and planish that, either planishing hammer or by hand. We're not going to do that. This is getting holes drilled in it. It's going up against a flange underneath the car, and it'll be spot welded. Same deal with this one down here. The angle is the most important part. So yeah, that'll go in, and this is gonna work plenty good for what we're making this for. It'll work out pretty nicely, I think. You might not have been able to see me on the time lapse, but I had this little template I made up to check my angles. You can't just set it in there because this has a radius and this doesn't. I could cut that corner out of it, but I'm not going to. But we are plenty close for what this is going to be, and it'll get screwed in with sheet metal screws to fit it, and that'll pull this in place. And if this angle here gets pulled and changed a little bit, it doesn't matter. This is the main idea here, and that's going to get us right in the ballpark of where we need. So now that I got the bigger panel made, we have side pieces. I'm going to cut this off. We'll trace out this. We'll mark where our flanges will all be broke. And I'll leave extra here because I want to shrink and stretch this area. I think that as long as I keep a small flat section here, and with the bead, I'm going to run a bead there to step this down and slide behind the other panel. As long as I do that, I believe that this will stay straight, and I believe there's enough material here to sort of bend around like that and not cause any issues anywhere else. With these flanges broke, I believe I can shrink and stretch that and just move this area. So we're going to try that out. I'm going to cut this right now, and we'll get it all laid out and started moving it. So I had to smooth this out with the English wheel, which that little mini English wheel is awesome. I have a big wheel with all the dies I would need. That thing's great for little work like this. It's just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so I had to bend the flange. I bent the flange the wrong way. This is so much easier on a brake. If I could have done the big piece on the brake, it would have been, like I said, absolutely fantastic. But we're gonna go ahead and shrink and stretch this and try to get that little curvature in there, and then we'll get back. All right, I left out some very small details like me filing and other stuff like that that you don't want to see because it's very boring. But this is going to slide in there. That's why we have that bead. This flange it will be on the same angle, but it's going to sit up higher because where it mounts to will be higher. Now this will be behind there like such, be bent up. This tucks around something over here, and this curved flange will mount to a curved flange down below. And the shape should be correct. We'll find out when it mounts on there. The other side's the same deal. There we go. The other side will be exactly the same. So we'll adjust it, get it all set up on the car. We'll